Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode about my music collection, Best of the Box, episode number 2. For this we're going to be going through my 11,000 CD collection. I've got 97 boxes like this one behind me here. They each store 90 CDs or approximately thereof, which totals out to 8,730 CDs. And so for this series, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a different box each time and go through the contents of what each one has within it, revealing that for you. And they're different boxes have different things within them, obviously. There's some that have whole artist collections, other ones that are of one genre type. Some are latest purchases, other ones are collections by like record labels, and different ones. In this particular case, we've got one here that is a catch-all, both used and new. And so we're going to jump into that in just a bit here. But before we do, if you are new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this with Music Collection, Best of the Box, episode number 2. And so two things. One, I'm going to move that down here so I can get into a little bit easier. But also, if you want to be able to zoom in and see what that is there, at the very end of this video, if you wait all the way to the end, I'm going to have a still image photograph of that where you can actually peruse through and see what it is, because I might not hit on everything throughout the video. So do wait for that towards the end. And so if you give me a second now, we're going to fade out here and fade back in so I can get this thing going for you. All right, everyone, so we're back here and I've got the box now down below me here, so it's a little easier for me to get into. And so this box here, catch-all box, and it's got both used and new things that are in it. Usually when my interests take off behind a certain band, I'll flesh out my catalog, and that's what a lot of this box is here. And so not alphabetical, this thing literally just has it in here any which way. So we're going to dive into it, and we'll get to the end when we get to the end of this thing. So first thing is there's a bunch of King Crimson that's in here. Cool compilation called the Compact King Crimson. You might have seen me show this one in a recent New Music Finds. I just picked that one up. But then I've got a bunch of other King Crimson. I've got this one here, the 21st Century Guide, 2 CD set. I like the way they break this one down from 69 to 74 and then 81 to 2003. So a nice way that they delineate. And then I've got a bunch of the albums that are in here, fleshing out the catalog, Construction of Light. And so just want to also point out that this isn't my full collection of, like, say, King Crimson or whatever band I might be going through. I've got lots of other stuff. Remember, I've got 11,000 CDs, so there's a lot more of this stuff in other boxes. This is just some of things that flesh out further things. So Thrank in there, and or is this one? Sorry, Thrack. Beat. This is my favorite period, the 80s. So Beat. Three of a Perfect Pair is actually my favorite album by them, but along with Discipline. So that 80s era of King Crimson, these three alone, my favorite of the band. It's what pulled me into them recently. I was not a big King Crimson fan overall. This was something just right before the pandemic that I was getting into. Picked up Red. Of course, it's got John Wetton in the lineup, and I'm a big Asia fan. So, you know, picked it up more for that. But for me, you know, King Crimson is one of those bands that I really have to be in the mood for. This one here, their debut album, 21st Century Schizoid Man. So good stuff there, a lot of stuff for me to dive through. Another one that I was getting into that I'd never really been into before is Wishbone Ash. So I've got a bunch of their albums. This one here, this was called Barrels Burning? Twin Barrels Burning, right? And then we've got Raw to the Bone, some of their later period stuff, and then here their self-titled debut, really, really good. So another band that I'm into, but I only like certain periods right now of. Later on I may flesh out with other stuff, but those there. And then I've got was jumping into some Pat Travers, digging deeper. So this box here has a lot of stuff in it where artists that I hadn't fully invested in was getting into. Can Do, Power Trio. So it usually just starts by me picking up albums that I like the sound of, and then I kind of go from there. I did pick this up. This is a nice collection here, Feeling Right, and it's got 8 albums, I think, on this thing. It's got debut from 75, or self-titled, I should say, at least. Putting It Straight, Making Magic, Heat in the Sun, which is a really good one I always liked, Radioactive Live, Black Pearl, and Hot Shot. So a lot of really good stuff. The way they do this is that double disc thing, but they've got so many more packaged within it. I'm seeing a lot of those happening. And then right before the pandemic, I had gone and seen David Byrne live on Broadway. And this is actually the soundtrack from it here. And it comes from the American Utopia album, and it was fleshed out around that tour. So from that, I just kind of exploded with David Byrne stuff and Talking Heads and so forth. So I was fleshing that out. Look into the eyeball. Sorry. Don't know all of these totally right off the top of my head right now. Now this one here, Feelings, great album. Probably, I think this was my first David Byrne album from back in the early to mid 90s. I picked that one up. Knowing who the Talking Heads were no longer around, picked that one up there. This is a really great one here, self-titled, one called Uh-Oh. And I can't even pronounce this one, so I'll just show it to you. But good stuff from David Byrne, and he's all over the map when he does his stuff. So definitely check out the stuff before picking it up. If you're a Talking Heads fan, this one's good. Stand in the Vaseline, nice compilation album. I believe it's out of print now, but again, in one of those double jewel case ones like they used to do. Now, of course, they're slimline and or usually the digipack kind of style. And you guys know I like my compilations, so sometimes I flesh things out with those. And our Best of Roxy Music, this one here, 18 tracks kicking off with Avalon and stuff like that. Now, classic Queen, there's far better compilations out there, but this is the first Queen compilation that I picked up that had all this stuff on it. I don't think it's in print any longer. So it's one of those ones that I wanted to go back and get because I remember the track, the running order of that. Of course, I do have this one now, which I think is probably the best one, just simply called Queen's Greatest Hits. And I believe that was a British release first before it became widely distributed the way that it is. And so, you know, there's one there that's better for listening and another one that's just got good memories on it. All right, so if you're a fan of Marillion and early era stuff with Fish, I've also got some Fish solo stuff. This one here, The Balladeer and the Rocketeer. So ballads and rockers, cool comp from him, best of. And this album here, which is Sunsets on the Empire, or on Empire. Some good stuff, still diving into both of those, getting those under my belt. From the King Crimson, I got an Adrian Belew Side 1 album. And then we get off into some other stuff here. And this, like I said, it's a catch-all box. So there's a lot of different stuff. I've got Crosby, Stills, and Nash in here. And from that, I've got some Graham Nash, a couple Graham Nash releases. This Path Tonight, which I really, really enjoy. It's his latest solo album. The other one was Compilation. Got this cool Monkeys collection here. This one here's a nice collection called Summer of Love that's got all like psychedelic early late 60s, you know, sounding tracks that work together on it, typical to them from that era, but not typical to the hits that they had. So kind of digging deep like album cuts and stuff like that, which are really cool. Ian Gillan and the Javelins, his first band, and you can see it signed there. Picked this up at Deep Purple live show, so it's all cover songs that they would have performed back in the day in the mid 60s, right before he was joining Deep Purple. Got Axe, nice anthology collection here of the Atco years, collecting up 2 of their albums, Offering and Nemesis. Good stuff there. Got some Buck Cherry in here, Warpaint, one of their studio albums. Then I also have Josh Todd and the Conflict, Year of the Tiger. So cool solo album from him. Did that, I think, in a period where Buck Cherry were taking a step back, and then he decided to revive Buck Cherry, as he's now, I think, the only original member that's left. A group called Warpaint. Really good stuff. They opened for Depeche Mode on tour, saw them, and really liked them. Cool metal band here. It's got a sound of retro new wave of British heavy metal called Early Man. highly, highly recommend these guys if you're not familiar with who they are. Then we've got this group here, Ravage. Very good throwback, another band. Some of these here that I've got are some throwback, newer bands, but throwback to like new wave of British heavy metal style stuff. Here's a thrash one, newer band called Take Offense, but sounds like some old classic thrash. Then we've got Power Trip. Unfortunately, the vocalist of this band had passed away maybe a year ago at this point, but just very, very tragic that that happened. Corrosion of Conformity, really great album, Wise Blood. This one here from the mid-90s, and good stuff. And I picked up also Deliverance, which is another great album. This one here that's got Albatross on it and Clean My Wounds. So this was, again, just like I said, fleshing out. So I got into a particular metal phase and decided to dig back into some metal albums that I didn't have or had maybe as only some promo type stuff. Pick this stuff up, the Dublin Death Patrol, which is a whole host of metal guys in it. It's got Chuck Billy in it from Testament, Steve Souza from Exodus. We've got, forget who some of the other guys that are in this, but just tons of metal guys. I mean, you can see the backside of all the guys that play on this album. So it's a really cool pairing of a bunch of those guys. And then I've gotten here a whole slew, there we go, of Hendrix albums. So Machine Gun, good live one there. South Saturn Delta. So a lot of these are, you know, different labels, whether it was the record label or the family, Experience Hendrix, that put these comps out, different mixes on them, sometimes different takes, sometimes different running orders and so forth. And so enjoy picking these things up and having these different ones here. Another great one, different best of. I've got an Ultimate Hendrix that I prefer, but did want to have that. New Rays of the Rising Sun. There's different versions of this out now, like Voodoo Soup that came before it. Then you've got ones like this, Cry of Love, a compilation from very early on, right after he died. We've got Band of Gypsies and Electric Ladyland and Axis Bold as Love, and then debut album here, so the Jimi Hendrix Experience. So a lot of good Hendrix, been fleshing out the collection there. I've really only ever had best ofs and comps and things like that on him, and I finally dug deep and got each of the albums and whatnot. Then I'm going to get into some more metal stuff, and we've got some classic Pantera early on. And when I say classic, I mean the 80s era, right? First album with Phil Anselmo called Power Metal, Projects in the Jungle, and Metal Magic, both with Terry Lee Glaze before Phil Anselmo joined the band. Those are hard to come by, not official releases, but very high quality ones at that. And then I've got a number of Motörhead albums. Motorizer, which is a really great one of the newer era stuff from the 90s. Overnight Sensation, another good one. Always like this album too. Snakebite Love, Love for Sale's a really good one. Sacrifice, early 80s. But probably one of my favorite albums of them, 1916. This one here is a cool one. Reissue, remastered, 2 bonus tracks, Eagle Rock and Dead Man's Hand added onto it. So definitely worth it for that alone. And then got into Box of Frogs, which is the Yardbirds in the 80s with different vocalists and people coming in to sing. So I picked these up. These are on the Esoteric Records label, so I had a twofer that these were on, but I wanted the standalone individual albums, so I picked those up. So it's not something necessarily new for me hearing, just something that I didn't have that particular version of it. And then I've got some Steve Morse and Dixie Drugs in here. This one here, Major Impacts, really great album on this one. That one there doing songs in the style of artists that influenced him, but they're not covers. So they sound like songs by other artists, but they're actually not, which is kind of a cool thing. And then this one here, we've got twofer on this one. This is Introduction and Stand Up, 2 of his earliest Steve Morse Band releases. Then we've got this Dixie Dregs album here, which is called Bring 'Em Back Alive, so a live release. And Dixie Dregs What If, good early album from them. And keeping with the guitar theme, got some Yngwie Malmsteen in here. This is a Japanese issue of it because the album itself, The Seventh Sign, is out of print. So I had to buy one of those, but it came with a bonus track. So definitely worth it from that. And then a cool compilation here, an anthology from 94 to 99. So nice 5-year period here. Again, not the hits. So I dig these sometimes because they you know, have the deeper cuts on these things. I can get away from what everybody knows from that particular artist and listen to some other stuff and kind of flesh things out. I don't listen to radio, so a lot of times these compilations are the fill-in for what would have been radio for me. Now I can listen to something that spreads things out. UK Danger Money, my favorite album by UK, of course, with John Wetton and the lineup before Asia. Humble Pie, this one here, which is called On to Victory, long time out of print album from them, one of the later era ones, finally back in print. Tomahawk with Mike Patton from Faith No More, and of course Mr. Bungle, great album, Odd Fellows on there, Fellows. And this one here, interesting, Dark, this one here has Dolores O'Riordan from the Cranberries in the lineup playing on this one here. So kind of cool that she was in there. This was one of the last things she did before passing away, unfortunately. Blaze Bayley. This one here, nice compilation of songs that he did with Thomas Zildjian. Hope I'm saying his name right. Acoustic guitar player, does a lot of interpretation of Iron Maiden tracks and things of that nature. And they get together and they do a bunch of cool stuff here, which is great to hear those guys together. And then I got some Camel releases, so some cool prog stuff here, psychedelic stuff. The Snow Goose, nice double album reissue of this one. It's got a live show, and this one here, Moon Madness, another one, deluxe edition of that. And I actually really like the debut album a lot. So even though this one is different than those two that are there, this one here is one I go back to a lot. And the final things that I've gotten here are some Spock's Beard. I have found that I really like the new era of them with the newer vocalist. First 20 years, a nice double disc compilation plus DVD that I've got, so I can have those. And I got a few of the earlier ones, but these are the three most recent studio albums. Noise Floor, and these are deluxe editions that have second discs with them. This one here, Bolivian Particle, and another one that's a 2-disc set. I can't even read that. Brief Nocturnes and Dream Sleep something or another. All right, so you can look this one up. It's written in cursive, so it's a little hard to read on here, but a 2-disc set nonetheless. And so there you go. That's all the discs. We actually hit every one there, but again, if you stick around all the way to the end of this video, I'm going to put a picture of the contents in this, and you can actually peruse it through by spine and get the exact album titles from that. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. Hope everyone has a great day, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye, everyone.